I read MrBeast's 36-page leaked content doc, so you don't have to. There's a lot of information in here, so I'm going to be pulling from my notes. For context, an internal onboarding document allegedly containing the MrBeast production team's secret weapons has leaked online. It reveals how Jimmy Donaldson, aka MrBeast, builds and manages his YouTube empire and breaks down how to be successful on YouTube. Jimmy, aka MrBeast, starts off this document with a very casual tone. It's pretty entertaining. He's letting the new hires know what the purpose of this book is. Love this line where he says, if you read this book and pass a quiz, I'll give you $1,000. That in itself feels like a MrBeast YouTube. He's very quick to say that this is not a rule book and I want nothing in here to be taken literally. Personally love that he calls out his run-on sentences and grammar issues and says, I'm a YouTuber, not an author. He has a lot of ha-has and LOLs throughout at times where he says stuff that feels like a red flag, and I can't help but laugh. The document has 4 chapters. Chapter 1, what makes a YouTube video viral? Chapter 2, creating content. Chapter 3, creative. And Chapter 4, your career. He points out the goal here is to make the best YouTube videos possible. Before he jumps into the chapters, he starts with a prelude where he says he's going to cover these 3 subjects of creative, production, and editing. He explains that ideally he would like a book for each of the departments, but they're so interconnected that he can put it all in one document. Then he says how he doesn't care how traditional media does things because YouTube is the future and you're gonna do things his way. The rest of the prelude communicates expectations within the role and the employees that he's looking for. Chapter 1 dives into what makes a YouTube video viral. He starts off by teaching the new hire what click-through rate is, CTR, average view duration, AVD, and average view percentage, AVP is. Every social media marketer knows these things. So it's great that he just starts off the document letting them know if you don't know these things, here they are. He explains his thumbnail strategy and the titles, and again, nothing here is groundbreaking. He just talks about how you need to grab somebody's attention, make it interesting, tell a good story, retain their attention, and also to deliver on whatever you promise them in the video or the title or the thumbnail. Don't be misleading. Then he gets a little more nuanced here. Twitter people loved this breakdown. They ate it up, where he pretty much just says the first minute of each video is the most important, mentioning things like lighting is super important in the first minute. Valid. For example, I tried to film this video earlier and the lighting was terrible, so I was like, there's no way I can film this video. I gotta grab their attention. I gotta show the audience how clear this picture is. This is all I got. Just sit in front of a window. Then we go into what he calls minute 1 through 3. Here's where you have to transition from hype to execution. Stop telling them what you're going to do and just do it. This is the show don't tell moment. Then we want to do something around the 3-minute mark called a 3-minute re-engagement. But if you don't have money for a big stunt, then change the story. He goes on later to say that creativity saves money. In storytelling, this could be a misdirection, it could be a swerve. Maybe it's when you were off on a side quest and now you're coming back to the main character storyline. And then we have minute 3 through 6, and it's the most important part of the video, he says. This reminds me of a MrBeast challenge video where he has a bunch of people, and from minutes 3 to 6, you're seeing a lot of them fall off the challenge. At this point, you've watched 3 minutes, so of course you want to see till the end. Another key point being, don't ever signal the end of the video unless it's to build hype for the prize or payoff at the end of the video. So then this is the most unattainable part that he explains, which he calls the wow factor. Basically saying that you want to hit them with something that only MrBeast can do. Chapter 2 talks about creating the content. This is where he repeats the word obsessed many times. Obsessed with YouTube, obsessed with his channel. Watch every single video that he puts out or has put out back to a certain point, so that way you fully understand the brand, which I don't think is crazy. This is the part where I could not stop laughing because it just doesn't feel realistic for a small team. I mean, clearly it works for him, so who am I? But I'm just saying, if someone did this to me, let me just explain it. He encourages everyone to read The Goal. I haven't read The Goal, I got the Spark Notes on it, but he talks a lot about bottlenecks. He goes into very specific examples about how you then need to micromanage someone, looking them in the eye and telling them, you are my bottleneck, and take it a step further and explain why they are the bottleneck so you're both on the same page. This is the most founder mode energy. This is one way to teach time management. Not my preferred method, but hey, teach their own, and he is doing just fine. Then he covers some communication topics. The communication lines and higher form of communication is just him setting expectations on how he wants you to manage the situation, manage up, communicate, so on and so forth. If something's very important, give me a call, get me in person. We need to talk face to face. Don't just send me an email and expect that I read it. Then we have MrBeast production tips. Creativity does save money. Instead of doing a video where you give away $200,000, you give a year's worth of Doritos, which when you do the math, it kind of breaks down to $2,000. So there you go. Big day for consultants. There was a tiny paragraph on using consultants and people lost their mind. Look at me, I'm useful. MrBeast thinks I'm useful. The point he's making is, hey, if we want to make a video where we're supposed to make the largest pie ever, maybe we should talk to the last person that made the largest pie ever. If someone has done it before, ask them for advice. Who would have thought? I can't say anything. I'm literally a hired consultant. Personally, this one gives me the ick. Could never be me. But that's why I hire people that have this mentality and don't mind pushing. It takes a level of shamelessness that I personally just don't have, but I respect it to an extent. Here's another thing that most people don't know, the 1 out of 10 good, 10 out of 10 bad. Showing you that YouTube has a feature that compares a new upload's performance to the previous 9 videos and tells you how the views rank in the first hour, 4 hours, etc. Pretty much just teaching new hires how to understand analytics. Chapter 3, creative. You got here, you're wondering, what should the goal of my content be? Well, MrBeast says it's to excite me. The goal of our content is to excite me. His larger point being what excites him is exciting the audience. So what should the goal of your content be? To grab and hold their attention. That's pretty much it. Okay, if that's the goal of our content, then how do I make that content? What makes good content? He says content can be anything, but there is structure and rules that we must mold it into. So this is where he talks about formats. One way to boost retention on a video is to have a good format for the video to follow. Like the video where he had 100 different ages in glass boxes and the last to leave won $100,000. You get invested in the progress and the challenge. Another example is stair-stepping, when he bought the world's largest firework. But the video starts off with a $1 firework and escalates to a $50 firework. And then it ends with this super expensive world's largest firework. You're waiting, you're invested, you want to see the end result. So then how do you measure the success of content? We're going right back to our buzzwords, CTR, AVD, and AVP. So if you don't know these best practices for YouTube, then I'm gonna read this pull quote for you. Hook people at the start of the video, transition them to an amazing story that they are invested in, have no dull moments, and then have a satisfying payoff at the end of the video with an abrupt end.